Here's a couple ways on how to add custom CSS to your website. The first way is through the additional CSS, which you can find by just going into full site editing, and you click this icon, the styles icon, and then you go to this part that says additional CSS. And then here you can like change stuff. You can change body color, for example. Mainly you would use this for things you can't change in the full site editor. So you wouldn't use it for rounding the buttons, button size, or anything else that can be changed using the full site editor. You would just use the full site editor. But you could find it by using the inspect tool. Like you just click on something and you could look at how it's styled. If we wanted to change the border radius, make it like round or something. The second way you can add custom CSS to your website is through the Style.css. And for this we'll need to create a child theme, which we'll do right now. I'll use a plugin to make it easier. I'm going to use a create block theme plugin. And this will be it, by WordPress.org, create block theme. Install it, activate it. And then once you do this, right now I have a blank website. Okay, no, I have nothing, plugins or anything. But once you do that, if you go into the site editor, this wrench icon will appear. And this is from the create block theme plugin. And so you can create theme and then create child theme. So you would click the create child theme to create the child theme. I'm going to name it child. This never happened to me before, but I think it just needs time. Let's see, I'll go back. I think it worked. It just like glitched out for a second. I'll check out the themes, and now it has the child theme active. So now we have a child theme. Now to get the child theme, we'll go back into the site editor and we'll download it. So you could do like export zip, and that'll download the child theme. If create theme, like if you tried to create if you tried to export your theme and it doesn't work, there's this other way where in the dashboard they have create block theme, and there'll be this thing that says export child, and this will do the exact same thing. It will be deprecated as shown here, but I did have a problem on my site once where it gave me an error when I tried to export it, but the dashboard one worked for me last time. But this time, just doing it the normal recommended way worked. Okay, so now we got that. And the next thing you want to do is download the parent theme you're using. I'm using the basic, the default 2024 theme. So I'll download this. Okay, so now I got that downloaded. Okay, I'm gonna put all my files in the custom CSS tutorial folder. You can put it wherever you want to put your stuff, and I'll just drag it over here. That's all I'll need for now. Next thing you want to do is unzip them. Extract here. Extract here. The reason why you want to download the parent theme is like for patterns or Style.css or any of this stuff. For some of them, if you create a folder, like let's say in 2024 there's this folder called patterns, and you see these files. If I were to create a folder called patterns here and create a file with the same exact name, it'll overwrite it. It doesn't work for all files. For example, functions.php, it does not overwrite it. It adds onto it. And if you wanted to remove a function from here, I'm using Visual Studio Code, but you could use like a remove in the child theme. You can like remove a function from the functions.php. So you can use like this remove action or something like this. It's recommended to look at the WordPress handbook itself. There should be something similar to this. We're not going to do that yet. We're just going to show how to add custom CSS. Now for loading the style.css from our child theme, it actually won't work by default because WordPress is moving towards using theme.json. So this is where your CSS styling would be stored, but it does have some limitations. So if theme.json doesn't support the changes you want to make, you would have to make the changes in the style.css. To add custom styles using the child theme, we'll open up the Style.css in our folder where we put our child theme. Okay, and as you can see, it's like empty, right? I'll also look at the Style.css and the parent theme. And the reason why they still have the Style.css is just for like meta information, like theme information. So it's like 2024, theme name, all this stuff. In the child theme, you know, this is how it knows what the parent theme is. So it says template 2024, and that's how it knows that this is the parent theme. Okay, so for the way to load the Style.css, we need to add the functionality in the functions.php, and make sure you make the changes in your child theme. So child, we'll have to create a functions.php file. So we'll just do new text document. You need to make sure the extension is .php, so it'll be functions.php, and that's our file now. So we'll open that in Visual Studio Code or whatever editor you choose, and we'll add the functionality. So first we'll make it a PHP file. We need this. Here, now it's a functional PHP file. Now all we need is the function. So to get the function, we'll look at the child theme, the WordPress theme handbook. And in child themes, they'll be customizing your child theme. And then here it is, loading Style.css. Basically says we need to add it ourselves since they moved on to using Theme.json instead. So you would copy and paste this code, right? And just put it in there. And then since our child theme, well, my child theme is named child, I'll change it to child. And you can name this whatever you want, but I recommend picking something that goes along with your theme. Okay, so now that's done. Oh, we also have to change this. Don't forget this. Add action so that it knows to call it. So this has to be child. So it's adding this specific function to the scripts. So we'll save that. And to show changes, we'll just add a style. So I'll just change the color of the body. You can pick any color. Once you do this, all you have to do is zip it. So I'm using 7-zip. Oh, you should also change the version of the, like when you make changes. Now the changes show up for like the version number. Okay, so now that that works, you'll notice that when you go into the site editor, the color doesn't change. Then that's because the Style.css is loaded separately for the editor. So the code we put only loads the CSS for the website, but not for the editor. So we'll have to add that function. So I'm going to create a function called add child editor styles. And then we have to add the function after the theme setup. So it would be after setup theme. And then we would add the function. So it should look like this, add action. We have to use after setup theme because that just means the theme is fully loaded. And so then we could add the child editor styles. Because here, this one is just adding it to the scripts. This one adds it after the theme is fully loaded. Next, make sure you got your spelling right. And I'll zip it again. And you'll notice it still hasn't changed it. And that's because for the editor, for the styles, you gotta add this important thing. Okay, so also change the version. And I'll zip it again. So now when you go into the site editor, it should look blue or purple. What the heck? Blue violet. It's weird. Okay, I think this is like the old cache. So to update the cache, like let's say this is a change I made a while back, so maybe that's why it's doing this. Control-Shift-R can fix it, and that will just reload it. Control-F5 can reload it. And also if you go into the inspect tool, here's another way to force it to empty the cache and hard reload. So if you make changes and they don't show up, it's usually a caching problem. So it can be fixed with those methods. And sometimes it just takes time. Like if you wait 5 minutes, sometimes it'll just fix itself. Okay, so but now the changes show up in both on the website and in the site editor. You don't have to use the same style.css. Like let's say you don't want to put the important for the normal CSS. You can create another CSS file. Like you can like duplicate it, I guess. Let's say you were to rename it to editor style.css. You can just change your file name that it calls. So in the functions.php, you're calling the style.css, but you could call the editor style.css, and it would still work. But we do have to create, well, to make it more obvious, I'll make it a different color. On the front part of the website, it'll be purple. I'll make the site editor red or something. So you can just open the editor.style.css, and I'll make it red. You have to add the important. Okay, so for the style.css that's loaded on the normal website, it'll be blue violet, and for the site editor it'll be red. And all you have to do is zip it again. I should probably change the version too. Okay, so it's blue violet on the website, but in the site editor it'll be red. Okay, so the changes do work. They are loading the correct style.css for each one. I don't think it's a big problem using the same style.css for both the site editor and for the normal website that people can view, but it does require sometimes to be a little bit different. Like to make this show up in the site editor, you do need an important. When using a child theme to implement custom code, you might want to use a staging site, because I'll show you what happens if you put in bad code. For example, let's say let's say in the functions.php I forget something, like let's say I forget to put quotes or something, right? So now I have a spelling error. And if I were to zip this and then upload a theme with bad code, okay, so I've uploaded the code, and it'll break the site if you have bad code. So this is why using a staging site is good, so that if you accidentally put in bad code, you won't break your site. I'll show how to fix it though. So depending on your host, it might be a little bit different. For Hostinger, we can look at critical error. And generally speaking, for this error, like it's a bad code, I can't even look at the dashboard. So if you can still access your dashboard, you could just change the theme to your original theme or to the parent theme, and it'll probably like fix it. If you make an error where it disables both the website people can view and the dashboard, you'll have to disable the active theme through your host file manager. So for me, it would be 3. I can't access it, so I would disable it using the file manager. And since my error is caused by a theme, I would have to use the theme. But here, if you have a bad plugin, you can also disable it here. So I'll go to website, make sure you're on the correct website, and you would just go to dashboard and file manager. And you just have to follow the instructions. So it says public HTML, WP content, and then themes. WP content, themes, and then all you have to do is rename it to this. So now that we did this, our website should be back up and running. And then you could go to your themes and change it back to your parent. Now, websites like this are pretty good because you can just create a website. Like I can just create a blank website. So if you use like a staging site and you accidentally break it, it's not that important versus breaking your live site, which is worse. So if I were to add the broken theme here, it would do this. You can obviously just delete them. Yeah, so if you test your theme on a staging site, that's much better than risking breaking your actual website. So it's always good to make sure your code works before you upload it to a live site. If you're having difficulty figuring out what broke your website, step 2 is like you could debug it. So to debug it, you would just follow this. You have to go into debug mode in WordPress. So you have to find your wp-config.php file, and you just go to File Manager for your website, public HTML, and you should see something that says like wp-config, which is right here. So once you're in here, all you have to do is copy and paste this. It should be similar, but you can check what your specific host requires. But basically, you go into the wp-config.php file and you add the debug code. So right here it says define wp debug false, and we just change this to true. The false value, okay, so we make it all true, and then that will enable debug mode. And then you can save that. And so I have to break my website again. So I'm going to just upload the broken theme again. Activate it. And here, so when you're in debug mode, instead of just saying there's a critical error, now it tells you what went wrong. And it'll tell you which line of code broke it. So it says line 13. And line 13, that's where we forgot the quotes. So that's one way to easily find where you went wrong with your code. Okay, the final way to add custom CSS to your website is through the Theme.json file, which is where WordPress is heading to. I've already got rid of the custom CSS that changed the background color, so I've deleted it from the Style.css files. So it's back to the way it used to be. So to start off, we'll look at the 2024 theme.json. For this example, I'm just going to change the font size. So right now when you look at the fonts, when you click styles and blocks, and then just click on anything, it'll bring up this left sidebar. And you could select like small, medium, large, extra large. But they're like preset hard-coded values that are in the theme.json file. You can do like a custom size too here, but let's say you want your website to be more uniform. You can help keep different parts of your site consistent by having a standard size for each of the sizes. For example, okay, so in typography, you'll have the different sizes, like font sizes, small, medium, large, extra large, and they each have their sizes going with it. And so if you would want to change these values yourself in your child theme, you'll have your theme.json file, and you can edit that. Currently it's empty because there's nothing there. I'm just gonna make our theme.json look the same as the parent theme, so it says schemas on top. I don't think it matters. Since we're gonna add stuff, they do need a comma after it. So I'm just gonna put a comma and switch it. And since we were editing the fonts, we'll have to add that section. So on the third line, so check what I need. Settings. So it's nested into settings. So we would have to put like settings, and then inside there would be typography. So you can just copy it. I think I should copy this too, so let's copy it all from typography all the way down to here and just paste it inside of here. Since there's nothing after it, we get rid of the comma. So, but if once we add another section, you'd have to bring back that comma. So for this example, I'm gonna make the small bigger than the large, so it makes it obvious that the change is taking place. But you could change that, for example. And Theme.json is automatically supported. If you're using a block theme, it's what they use instead of Style.css. So we don't have to like change anything in the functions.php because it's using the Theme.json already. So we can just zip that. Now we just upload it. Okay, so now with the new child theme, that JSON being updated, if I do small, it's now large. So it changed the default size. I'll change it back. Now if you want to add custom CSS like the additional CSS or the style.css, Theme.json also has a way to add custom CSS, but it's kind of weird because you got to put it on a single line. So for example, on this one they say here, for side-wide custom CSS, this is how you would do it in the theme.json file. So it would go under styles and then CSS. So I can just copy that, and basically it would go below this. Okay, so we'll look here. So settings would still be inside of here. Okay, I messed up. It's outside of settings. So styles is in its own section because should be the schema. Okay, see, settings, styles, custom templates, and template parts. This is basically how it is. So settings has its own set of like variables that you can change, and styles goes into this styles section. So I've created a style section, and all your CSS would go into here. So I'll try to see. Okay, I'm just gonna add it temporarily. Let's see if I were to do body. Let's pick a random color. I'll just hover over this and I'll just pick something. Let's say I'll just do bright pink for now. Okay, so I'll copy this and then I'll delete it because I don't want to change anything. But since you gotta put it on a single line, it says you add site-wide custom CSS as a string. It all goes on this one line. You can use like a tool, like this is a CSS minifier. What this does is when you minify it, it puts it on a single line. And then if you add it to here, it should add that color to like the site-wide. I'll zip it now. Add to archive again. Okay, that's done. Okay, so now the theme.json, the custom CSS is now being applied. And the cool thing about the theme.json is even though it's like on a single line, it automatically applies it to both the site editor and also the normal site. So you don't have to do that extra step where you have to load a style sheet for both the editor and for the normal site that you're viewing. And it's not in the style either, so it's not here. It's definitely being applied by the JSON file. If I get rid of it, so now that I deleted that, it'll get rid of the pink. And that's how you would add custom CSS, whether it be for the theme editor, like changing some of the hard-coded values, or just adding it to site-wide CSS using this so that they both work. This is how to add custom CSS to your website using a code plugin. So to start off, we're just gonna download a code plugin. I'm gonna use a WP code for this tutorial. I still recommend using Style.css or Theme.json with a child theme, but this could be useful in some cases. Once you get the plugin, you can now go here and click code snippets and add new, and here you'll have this option, add your custom code. For this tutorial, I'm just going to change the body color, so go here and just do body and then change the background color. I'll change it to blue, and then I'll name it body color. Okay, and since this is a CSS code, we're gonna have to change this to CSS, and then you can make it active, and this saves the snippet. And then by default, it will auto insert it into the site-wide header, and it will show up. If you want it to only show up on one page, they also have conditional logic. So you go to this section which says Smart Conditional Logic, and just toggle enable logic, and it says show, which is fine the way it is. You can also hide it from a specific page, but let's say you just want it to show up on one page. You could click add new group, go to page URL, and then you could go to the page you want it to show up on, and let's say it's the blog page, and then just copy and paste that into there, update it, and now it only shows up on the blog page, but on the home page, nothing. This plugin can also be used for other stuff. I've only tried it with CSS and JavaScript. JavaScript, I don't recommend using it, because although it works sometimes, sometimes a random line of code will be converted into an HTML entity, and it will like change some of the code to make it where it doesn't work. But if you do JavaScript from your child theme, like let's say you create a JavaScript file in your child theme and then queue it, it like always works.